Oh, thank you for this one. Can a woman serve as president of the Southern Baptist Convention? I thought that might be a derivative question from the earlier question, given current controversy and conversation. It's hard to know just how serious that conversation is. I was asked this question in public at the Southern Baptist Convention when we met last year in Dallas at the 9 Marks public event. And I'll answer the question now as I answered it then. So if you're thinking about a woman serving as president of the Southern Baptist Convention, given just the constitutional responsibilities of the president of the SBC, there's probably no reason a woman shouldn't serve as president of the SBC. If it comes down to presiding at a meeting as a presiding officer by Robert's Rules of Order and the governing documents of the SBC, that's not a role that I think Scripture limits to men. If you look at the making of appointments, which is in many ways historically the most important long-term influence of a president of the SBC, just in terms of gender, there's no reason a woman wouldn't make appointments as good as a man. But obviously I'm headed somewhere with this, and that is to the fact that the actual role, and that gets back to the previous conversation about pastor, that's far more important, or elder, when it comes to the office and the function. But the reality is that the function of the Southern Baptist Convention president has actually been pastoral for, well, the better part of the SBC's history going back to 1845. For one thing, the SBC president gives a report to or a message to the Southern Baptist Convention. And whereas in the early years of the SBC, that was kind of a business report, it didn't stay that way. Instead, it's become a major message. It's been in almost every case. Now for many, many decades, it has been the president delivering an exposition of Scripture and a preaching exhortation to the Southern Baptist Convention. Well, there, as I said earlier, it's not exactly the situation of a local church, but it is a situation which is about as close to the local church as you can get by very design. And it's a gathering of pastors. Largely, not all, there are laymen who are there too, but it's in a context in where what's being done is going to be called preaching. And there's a reason why it's been a pastor. It has been many decades. Basically, you look at my lifetime since a layman has served as president of the Southern Baptist Convention. And it was unusual when it happened, and it was awkward when it happened. And there were people alive when I was first in leadership in the Southern Baptist Convention who spoke of how awkward it was to have a layman. It was Owen Cooper in that case in Mississippi as president of the Southern Baptist Convention, because he couldn't preach in many contexts, where that's exactly what they needed the president of the SBC to do. The other functional aspect is that the president of the Southern Baptist Convention, by tradition and function, generally preaches all over the Southern Baptist Convention and Southern Baptist churches, not just bringing a report about the SBC, but preaching, fulfilling a preaching and in its own context, an authoritative leadership kind of role. So if you're just looking at the constitutional responsibilities of presiding at a meeting and making appointments, no, I don't think that's gender specific. But when it comes to the actual function of what it means to be president of the SBC, I guess I'd have to say two things. Number one, if being president of the SBC means what it has meant for many, many decades now, then I don't think biblically a woman should serve in that role. If Southern Baptists are going to redefine that role, then that would be a different thing. But that really means the SBC would have two decisions to make, I think, in that light, or at least would be making two decisions, whether it's admitting it or not. I think it's very important that this be discussed by Southern Baptists, apart from any kind of personality, long before there's any kind of concrete proposal or nomination or anything. This is a good thing for Southern Baptists to talk about, and I was pretty certain that question would come. And I'm going to seek to be as consistent as I can be in answering that question, answering it the same way in Dallas. I was asked that years ago when it seemed to be just a hypothetical question, and I'm going to seek to be very consistent in answering that question as we go on.